Hello and welcome to another episode of The Psychic Explorer. And my word, have I got an absolutely gorgeous episode for you today. Today's guest is Nat Lockett. Nat is a developing medium and we met in an online circle. We've read for one another several times and Nat gives such gentle, calm readings. It's when she reads for you, it's such a beautiful experience. And as I explained in this conversation, the basis for it was born from something else. I originally reached out to Nat to see if she had any spooky stories that I could share for my Halloween episode. The email that I received back, it justified an entire episode just for Nat. You will hear these stories as we go through our conversation, and I'm sure she has many more to tell as well. But the reason I wanted to give Nat an opportunity to talk about her experiences, not only because it may resonate with you, the dear listener, but also I really want to try and showcase, or at least try and showcase, as many different experiences people have onto this path as possible. But the point that I made in my Winter Solstice Ghost Stories episode was that ghost stories don't have to be scary, they don't have to be spooky, they don't have to be terrifying. They can actually be something really affirming and really positive. And the vast majority of Nat's experiences are exactly that. They are positive. She saw them and she still sees them as something beautiful. Communication from loved ones who are no longer with us. And what I especially love and what comes through on this conversation and this episode so strongly, in my opinion, is the theme of love. And she bakes this into her family. It is the first thing her and her husband think of when raising their children. We start the interview with this amazing phrase that Nat's family sort of structure everything they do around. And it's being led by love. If you take nothing else from this episode, my word, please take that. Whatever you do in life, be led by love. This is going out in April. However, me and Nat recorded this in January, and it has been a week, my word. With everything going on in politics in the US, it's scary, scary times. And I think if we all just took a moment to step back and question, am I being led by love? Things in this world would be so much better, so much better. Before we start the conversation with Nat, there's a question I asked, and I'm referring to some videos that Nat has sent me. She very kindly allowed me to share these videos of her communicating with her loved ones using a REM box and a regular bathroom light that flashes on and off. I've put these together and I've put these onto my Instagram reel. So if you're interested, pop on over to my Instagram, the.psychic.explorer, and you'll be able to see them there. Not only that, but after we finish recording this episode, Nat wanted to tell me about an experience, a recent experience that her husband had had. So we recorded that as well, and that is actually on video, that's on cam. Again, pop over to my Instagram and you'll be able to see a short additional story to one of the many that Nat talks about in this episode. Right, I have rambled on more than enough. Here is the wonderful Nat Lockett. Natalie Lockett, my friend from across the pond. Nat, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You said earlier on before we started recording that you've got a bit of a tickly cough, so I'm sending you all my healing vibes and hoping that you can suppress this cough for today's conversation. How are you? How was your Christmas?
Christmas was lovely, very small, stayed home. It was great. How about yours?
Yeah, it was good. It was good, thank you. I put on a few kilos, though.
You and me both.
Yeah, I know. It's like if you can't do it at Christmas, then when the hell can you do it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And for listeners thinking, why the hell are you talking about Christmas? It is April. We are recording this in very early January, so this is the first time that me and Nat have seen each other since Christmas. Nat, before we get started, could you just explain to the dear listeners, who are you? Introduce yourself if you would.
Yeah, so I'm Natalie. You can call me Nat or Natalie, either way. I am a stay-at-home mom and a developing medium. Just trying to live this life following the lead of love, making this world a better place. Yeah, that's it. That's all I do.
What a beautiful phrase. Oh, following the lead of love. Where does that come from?
It's kind of just my family's motto, if you will. My husband and I, every decision we make, everything we do, everything we teach our children is following the lead of love. Is this a loving thing? Where is this going to lead us? How does this help others? Does this feel like a pull of love that's leading us this way, or is it something else? And we just, follow the lead of love is what I have been doing since I was born, is what I like to think. I've messed up a lot of my path, but in my family, in my home, we try to follow the lead of love.
I think that is so beautiful. I mean, we were talking before we pressed record about what's been going on this week so far. Again, just to remind listeners, although this is going out in April, we are recording this the first week of January. And the start of 2026 so far has been crazy. What a beautiful way to raise your family with that as your motto. I think so many people will benefit if they have something like that. Is it easy, though?
No, it's not, because, I mean, in one way, yes, it's my automatic. It's just like my automatic. I don't know how to explain it any other way, other than that's just what I do, and that's what we do. It is not easy for myself at times, because it's hard to use my voice. And that's something that I've had to learn how to do. It's easier to use my voice for other people. It's easier for me to follow the lead of love. So I correct myself. Yes, it's easy to do when it involves others. Something's happening to someone else, I step up and I use my voice. However, following the lead of love for myself is something that I am working on. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on today, Nat. I reached out to you, through a mutual circle friend, actually.
Yeah.
We'd obviously spoken to each other a few times before then, because we go to the same online circle. But I was putting the feelers out for some spooky stories for the Halloween episode. And Chelsea said, well, I don't have any, but Nat might. And so she got an email to you. And the email that I received off the back of that conversation was story after story after story. It was possibly the best email I have ever received. And I replied back to you and I said, I think this is too good of an opportunity to ignore. You need an episode just for yourself. And what struck me, Nat, was that every story you sent me seemed to have this backstory or this theme of communication with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I did reach out for the spooky stories, and I gave you this list. However, I was so hesitant to send it to you because they're not spooky to me.
No.
And so I'm like, yes, I have a list of all these experiences, but they don't really fit with spooky because nothing has felt, correction, one time spooky. However, it's a lack of understanding, which leads to my spooky feeling. So I just wanted to say that because my list is all like loving and exciting and full of curiosity rather than spookiness. So I do want to say that because it was just kind of on repeat in my mind.
Absolutely. With that in mind, shall I ask the first question?
Great. Yes.
Now, would you take us back to your earliest memories of something that you found strange or unexplained? And how did you come to understand that as a child?
I have a story that my mom used to tell me from before I can remember. But the first experience that I do remember, I must have been 5 or 6 5 or 6. And my younger sibling and I, used to hear in the kitchen, everyone would be asleep. And I heard this forever. And eventually I asked him, and I would hear pots and pans in the kitchen, just a ruckus. So much was going on. Cabinets opening and closing. I'd get up and no one was in there. Everyone's asleep. I'd look in my mom and dad's room. They're asleep. Both my siblings asleep. No one's awake. I'd go back into bed and it would just happen again. And eventually I asked my younger sibling, we shared a room together, and he heard it as well. And our imagination took over and we called it the werewolf in the kitchen. So
not too terrifying then.
No. So we called it the werewolf in the kitchen, who would show up every night, just every night. And what's really fascinating about this is eventually it stopped. And fast forward to when we're in our 20s and I receive a text message from my brother, and he texts me and he said, the werewolf is in the kitchen. he didn't have to say anything else. I knew exactly what he meant. And it was just really comforting. I don't know. It felt like an old pal was back, if you will. It was really cool.
Yeah. So you look back on that with not dread or horror, but positivity.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was no feelings of anything dreadful. Yeah, I felt very safe. I felt curious. I think curiosity is what would overcome us.
Yeah.
And then our child brains took over and we called it the werewolf, which just added a lot of play into it.
Yeah, the analytical part of me is begging to ask, what do you think it was? Was it an earthquake or was it something spiritual or spooky? But I suppose that takes away from the mystery and the romance and the magic of it.
Yeah, I'm in Washington and we have earthquakes quite often. However, an earthquake every night, that's not happening.
No, it's not.
Definitely something spiritual. There's no other explanation for what happened. I don't know if I'll have an answer until I transition to the spiritual side, and I look forward to that.
Yeah, but not too soon, please. Not too soon.
No, let's knock on some wood, please.
Let's not be too hasty just yet. So how did it feel to be not the only one to hear or to feel those things? What did that feel like?
That is the only experience that we shared together until we were about 15.
Okay.
But it did feel nice. Growing up, I often felt lonely and alone because I was often in my own mind. Like I take that back, lonely and alone from the physical world, from friends and things like that. I was often in my own mind experiencing things with my feelings, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't really know. But to have my sibling experience that with me, I feel like is something really special and unique. And it makes me feel really warm inside that we shared that together, like that piece of our childhood that was so I don't know, it just makes me feel good. And to have someone that experienced it with me was nice, yes.
Something to share when, time when you were feeling lonely. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I know there was a time that you knew when something was going to happen before it happened. I know that there must have been several times that this happened, but there's one time in particular that you emailed me about that you knew something really significant before you were even told about it. Would you mind sharing with listeners what that was and how did that make you feel at that time? Because as listeners will hear the story, that must have actually been quite traumatic.
Yes. So before I share that experience, that happened when I was around 9 years old. My family life, I feel like, plays in a lot. Like leading up to this moment, I need to share that I often knew things all the time without knowing why. So in my family, with my father, my mom, I was kind of the know-it-all without meaning to be the know-it-all. Everyone acknowledged it without acknowledging it. For instance, we're driving in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere and my mom takes a wrong turn and I'm in the back seat. And I remember this so clearly, not knowing where we are. I'm like, Mom, you're supposed to turn that other way. And she's like, you don't know anything. You don't have the map. You're a child. No. And I'm like, no, honestly, we're supposed to turn that way. Well, we drive like an hour in the opposite direction. Lo and behold, we're supposed to turn that way. So I can imagine how frustrating that would have been to have this little child telling you all the things you're doing wrong or all the things that are correct. My family kind of grew up with me being that person who just spoke the truth when the truth wasn't wanted to be spoken, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Knowing things that I shouldn't have known. So that's kind of what my whole life was. So then when I'm 9, my grandfather was very sick. He had cancer and was passing. We knew he was going to pass. But he was ill at this point and we didn't know when. My mom goes to visit him and it's me, my dad, and my siblings that are at home. And I remember my dad was sitting in his chair and I remember so vividly standing in the living room between the living room and the dining room. And I felt my grandfather. He was next to me. He was with me. And he was telling me, not verbally, I didn't hear him, but he was telling me, and I knew that he just passed. He was saying goodbye to me. Sorry, this actually might make me cry.
If you don't want to continue, Nat, you don't have to.
No, I do. It's I'm a crier, so I just apologize for whatever tears come out.
Never apologize for crying.
It was such a gift, and it was so beautiful to share that moment with him. And I turned to my dad, and I was sobbing, and I crawled into his lap, and I told him Grandpa died. And in that moment, my dad was like, no, he did not. Someone would call us. Someone would tell us. And I was like, no, I'm grieving. I'm bawling. I know. I felt him. I felt his goodbye. I felt this piece of me leave the physical world and join me in my spiritual world. And my dad was just saying, no, 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 no. And a couple hours later, I'm pretty much told to stop crying and to knock it off. And my mom comes home a few hours later, just bawling. And my dad's hugging her at the front door. And we find out that my grandpa died. And that was the first huge experience that my father had seen me have. It was so clear in that moment. You cannot deny that I experienced what I experienced. And at that moment, a few months later, my dad introduced fear into all of my experiences, told me that I needed to stop everything I was doing and to shut it down, that he was scared for me. But there was nothing scary for me in the experiences I had. It was quite beautiful to experience my grandfather leaving and saying goodbye to me to join me in another way. It was beautiful, tragic, sad, but so beautiful.
What were your parents? Was there religion in your upbringing?
So we didn't go to church. God was not something introduced to me. Goodness, my stories always end up at the end and go backwards, so I apologize for that. But my father was raised Baptist. We didn't talk about God in our home. My mom was also raised in and out of the church, but it's nothing. We didn't go to church. We maybe went to church once, but I don't even remember it. What I do remember is before all of this, from the moment I can remember, feeling something bigger than me. I didn't need to go to church to meet Source, God, Divine, Great Spirit, Samantha, whatever you want to call this love that connects us all. I have felt it since I was a child. I grew up in a traumatic home, and I remember just laying in bed, and this love would come and be with me. And that's who I call what everyone else calls God, what I have learned other religions and such. However, to fast forward to your question, my dad at that point pulled out the Bible and talked about all these things. I mean, I never looked at a Bible before this point, and he really just tried to instill fear into my experience. And he was scared. He had fear. He didn't understand this. He wasn't experiencing it the way I was. Instead, he viewed his daughter going through these things that he couldn't understand, taking him back into what he was taught. So I don't put any blame on him or anything of the sort for what he kind of tried to instill in me. But it just didn't work. I mean, I didn't have the fear. I just talked about it less,
What you're saying there, Nat, works out perfect for my next question about other people's responses to your experiences. You're saying that it didn't scare you, but did it stop you? Did you start to shut things down, or did you just carry on along your own way and just keep it quiet?
Yeah, I would say a little bit of both. I think that at that point, becoming a teenager and things, and my life was quite messy with my family. I kind of was thrown more into my physical world, my physical life, and would try to disappear from that into my spiritual life. However, during the day, I was so involved in the moment that I did shut down and kind of separate myself a little bit. experiences always happen around me. Spirit has always done things physically around me all the time. But as for feeling spirit and those kind of experiences, it really calmed down. I remember going into homes where I could feel shifts of energy, but not understand them. Looking back now, since developing my mediumship, now I have an understanding of, oh, that's what I felt. And it's really cool to know what I felt was accurate, but just have a better understanding of what I felt then. But as for like the experiences like my grandfather showing up, things like that really slowed down. I would say I spent maybe the next 10 years feeling other people and who they were and having more of a understanding of humans and seeing who they were at the core and letting that kind of lead me and grow. I don't really know.
Before we move on, I just want to explore this a little bit more because I've written down this little side question. Going back to when you were having these experiences when you were a child, I wonder, did you have any language for what you were experiencing back then? Or was it just feelings? I wonder, how did you interpret that at that age?
So I thought it was normal. I didn't know. I always, so in my family, we don't talk about things. We're not, I was told not to talk about things. We don't talk about things. So I thought this was something, all of my experiences, the things that would happen. From what I can remember, I remember it just being normal, just something that we don't talk about for some reason. Until, for instance, I share it with my younger brother because that was the boldest and loudest thing, right? That was continuing. It would happen over and over again. I'm like, I can't ignore this. I can't not talk about this.
Pots and pans are making noises and there's no one there.
Exactly. Like this, we have to talk. We can't not talk about this. And I do remember my mom would mention, I don't have this memory. It feels like a memory of a memory. My mom told me that when I was young, still in a crib, I talk a lot. I always have talked a lot. It's just who I am. And if I can't talk, I communicate in other ways. My mom told me that I would often tell her about a man in a top hat that would come into my room and come to my crib and play with me. I don't remember this. This is what my mom has told me. However, she told me there was a book when I got to reading age, and there was a book with a man in a top hat. And I was so excited because it looked just like him. And at that point, my mom had excitement over it all. I do remember that my mom would talk to me about this. But then when you start saying everything, and when everything you say is what people don't want to hear, I think the problem was there was a blur between psychism, which I didn't realize was psychism. I honestly actually called myself a psycho because I thought psycho meant psychic. So I would run around saying, I'm a psycho, I'm a psycho.
I love it. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Which is a family memory everyone laughs about until it no longer was cute, until I started getting information that was too big. And I didn't separate what was spiritual experiences versus psychic information. It all was one and the same to me. Good golly, I forgot what your question was again. However, I think that kind of answered it.
Yeah, it's about the language, about how it made you feel if you didn't have that language. I think what you're saying there, Nat, is actually really common. Back in the winter, I've released the Winter Solstice episode where listeners sent in their ghost stories, which weren't scary. They were actually really affirming. And one of the stories came from my auntie, and she was saying about my cousin at that time who was a baby. And my auntie had just got my cousin out of the bath. She was drying her down. She said my cousin looked at the back bedroom, towards the back bedroom, and she just said, hello. And my auntie said she looked round behind her, but there was no one there. And she said, darling, there's no one there. And apparently my cousin looked up towards the bedroom again and just burst into tears because she couldn't conceive that what she was seeing wasn't there. And my point is, I've listened to and watched so many different things from psychics and mediums, and there's this thing that you're not fully human, until you're like 10 or so, you're still really connected to that world that we came from and we are going to. After that age, there seems to be this conditioning, this dialing down. I mean, clearly this has not happened to you, but for most people, it just sort of dials down the volume of this other world.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to hug your cousin. That's such a sweet story. I just want to hug your little child cousin.
You know what? If you haven't already, I would, and I'm not just saying this, but if you haven't already, I would really recommend anyone go back and just listen to those stories. They're not scary. They're not spooky. They're just really affirming that there's something else there.
I will definitely, I haven't listened to that episode, but I will listen to it with my older child. I'm sure she would love to hear it.
Perfect. A bit of upselling there on the Psychic Explorer. Before we move on to the next question, you were talking about your father and how he was instilling fear into something that was really natural to you. Mm-hmm. How did that affect you going forward? Maybe in life, with your confidence?
I think tremendously. It has affected and impacted me greatly. I still work on my confidence. It will be a never-ending thing that I need to work on. Being told something from someone who I'm trusting, something that I don't believe to be true, is very confusing as a child. To have this beautiful experience and have my parent tell me how fearful I need to be of it and how I need to shut it down, cut it off. And there was I could feel how scared my dad was. He was truly scared, which was so conflicting and hard and confusing. Believing myself and trusting myself is difficult still. What is not difficult is trusting and believing spirit. For instance, this episode, this podcast, where you're like, this is all about you. This is your podcast, your episode. It's actually nothing about me, and it's not for me. This is an opportunity for spirit to share experiences that can be had and are had by all. The way that spirit shows up so boldly and beautifully in everyone's lives. This isn't about me. It's just a story being told that spirit is telling of how they've shown up my whole life. And that is what I have confidence in. Myself, none. Spirit, all of it.
You know, when I first met Nat on an online circle, for me at least, there was this immediate connection, or at least an immediate recognition of this just absolutely phenomenally beautiful soul before me. And I think, re-listening to this, as I'm editing this, I am just getting the biggest chills as she is talking. I really hope you are appreciating what Nat is saying. Her philosophy, her experiences, just utterly beautiful. If you want to tell Natalie how amazing she is, she's not actually on a lot of social media, so if you want to tell her, please let me know and I will forward your messages on to her. You can find me at the.psychic.explorer, Facebook, Threads and Instagram. Please pass on your love to Natalie, because just chills, just beautiful. Nat, without sounding too patronising, I think you are doing phenomenally on this episode. I know I said to you before that this is your episode, but I think what you were saying before the break there about it being about spirit, I love that philosophy. It's just absolutely beautiful. I really hope that my listeners or our listeners take that forward with them into their lives. You know, it's very easy when we step onto this path of mediumship that we develop an ego. You know, we call ourselves developing mediums, but actually it's very easy to develop an ego instead. And I really believe that what you just said there, Nat, is something that everyone should take on board when they step down this path. Really, really beautiful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Let's get back to your story, shall we?
Great. Please.
So you moved into your teenage years. Did you notice any change in intensity? And is there a particular moment that stayed with you if you did notice a deepening of intensity?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was one moment that involved several people. So it was really quite fascinating, and I will never forget this. It's as if it happened yesterday. I was around 15, and me, my mother, my younger brother, and we went to visit my grandma. And at this point, she had a very old farmhouse up in Michigan in the UP, like in the middle of nowhere, a very old farmhouse. We were visiting her, and she was an artist. And so we painted these paintings, and we're sitting in the kitchen, and we had all of our paintings out, and my grandma was just discussing them with us and, observing them.
I love that. I love that.
Honestly, I miss her so much because painting with her was just such a beautiful thing. So there's this door closed, a rocking chair in front of the door, and all of our paintings in front of this rocking chair. Behind the door are stairs that lead upstairs to 2 bedrooms. Now, these 2 bedrooms don't lock. However, my mother tried to open one and it would not budge and would not open a few days before. So that's kind of sticking out to us. And then it opened up just randomly, which could have been heat, coldness. I like to really bring the mundane in and not have everything be spirit. It's very important.
I think it's important too, especially in Michigan, it gets really cold.
Absolutely, yeah. So it very well could have been that. We were up there during summer, so it wasn't getting too cold. However,
fair enough.
I still insert that because I think it's very important. So we're looking at our pictures sitting there, and we hear footsteps. All of us hear footsteps coming down the stairs. As the footsteps reach the bottom of the stairs, the rocking chair starts to rock. There's no draft. There is nothing going on. This rocking chair is just rocking. And my grandmother has had experiences before. And so this is nothing abnormal, unusual to her. Instead, she's just continuing on. But I will never forget that moment where I have people experiencing something that I experience on my own. They're all hearing it. They're all seeing it. And it was just I'm beaming right now. I know no one can see this. But I was so excited to share this moment.
Look at that, everyone. Look at that.
Right. It was so cool. And it was so lovely. I will admit that at this point, I didn't want to be alone in the house because that was so bold. I think that was the boldest thing that had happened, that I was just like, you know what? I don't really want to be alone. I want to experience this with others, but something about being alone, I just don't want to. So I'm taking a nap a couple days later, and I wake up, and you know who's all alone in the home? I am all alone. I asked my family not to leave me. They're exploring the property, looking at old farmers' machinery. I don't even know what they're doing. And I hear someone walking upstairs, and I hear someone walking down the stairs, and I have to run. I have to run through the kitchen, past the stairs to get outside to a sunroom to leave the house. And I did leave very quickly. It's nothing scary. I was just...
No, there is. There's something about inanimate objects moving on their own, especially rocking chairs. And maybe I've been scarred from The Woman in Black. Have you ever seen it or read it?
No.
Oh my God, you must. It's amazing. Written by Susan Hill. She wrote this story, I think, back in the 80s. And they turned it into a stage show in the West End. I don't think it's on anymore, but went to see it a few years ago. And everyone in our group said, oh, it's so boring. But I loved it. The whole thing was just played by 2 people. And so it was so atmospheric. Oh. And it's set in Victorian England, and this house is on a little causeway, on a tidal causeway. It's cut off by this tidal causeway, and it's owned by this woman. And this solicitor goes to stay there to try and tie up this woman's affairs. She's died. But their rumour is, if you see The Woman in Black, something awful happens to all the children in your life. It's really good.
That's terrifying.
Oh, Nat, it is. It's terrifying. It's brilliant. But it's the reason I'm bringing it up is because in the play and in the film, there's this rocking chair that just goes back and forth on its own, and it's so atmospheric, and it's followed up by this blood-curdling scream. It's terrifying. I mean, as soon as I read your email about a rocking chair rocking on its own, I thought, oh my God, it's the woman in black.
It's so funny, too, because that sounds very, traumatizing, that story, the terror inserted.
Yeah.
However, today, I'm like, please rock all of my chairs, flip them upside down, do whatever you can. I'm here for it. Let's do it. So
Oh, I love it. Wow. I thoroughly recommend the film, the book, the play. They're all brilliant. But yeah, let's move on from rocking chairs. My God. I remember in one of your stories you were saying about smelling something, and I wonder, at the time, did you feel or smell, were these things physical? Or were you interpreting them through how you were feeling? Like what now you and I might say as your Claires. How did you feel that? What was that like?
So I would say everything up to this point, there was a lot of physical activity always happening. Things, obviously, rocking chairs, rocking. But everything was primarily feeling. I just felt and kind of knew. So what is that? Clairvoyance, I believe?
Claircognizance.
Cognizance.
Yeah. Claircognizance is knowing, yeah.
I'm going to trust you. I don't know any of them. I don't know why I just pretended like I did. That information comes in and it goes straight out. Anywho, I can't retain that. So when I was in my 20s, it started to become more than just feeling. The smelling started to happen. One particular night, I'm at a birthday party just a winter party at my brother's house. And this night, I was going all around. I was very pregnant, so my nose was very active. Like, I can smell things, right? And I could smell my dad everywhere. Throughout this entire home, it didn't matter who I was talking to. I could smell him, and it just kept, I would leave a room, I'd go somewhere else, and I could smell him. And the smell was accompanied with a feeling, but I couldn't understand this feeling. I needed to understand it. And I just remember going everywhere saying, like, why do I smell dad? You smell like dad. You smell like my dad, which is a smell of whiskey and tobacco. But everyone also has that unique smell to them, the smell that is you. And it's mixed in with that. And I could never find where the smell was coming from that night. Nowhere. I looked everywhere. And the next day I go home and I received a phone call from my brother letting me know that my father passed. And I'm going to cry again. But looking back at that, I know that it was his soul letting me know he was about to depart and transition from this physical world. I knew that feeling. I now know the feeling that accompanies when I smell someone. I know that feeling now because it happened again. That accompanies when someone's going to pass. And it happened, which I love. It brings me so much comfort and peace. Me and my father weren't talking at the time, so it's extra special and it's extra beautiful that he showed up before he passed in such a bold way that his spirit did, his soul, and gave me that smell and that feeling so I could experience that.
You're right. It really is such a beautiful thing. I had a similar thing when my mum died. I knew to the minute when she died. I was driving to the accident, and I knew I probably wasn't going to make it. But I thought, don't say anything. Just look at the time on the clock on the car, because I know that means something. I knew that time was important, and I could just feel her. I knew that she had gone. About 10 minutes later, my sister called me to tell me that she had gone. And I knew she had gone, and we got to the accident, and the paramedics were there, and the doctor was there, and the doctor said, "Do you have anything to ask?" And I said, "What time did she die?" And I remember looking at the clock and it being 12:01 when she passed. When I felt her, and the doctor said she was declared at 12:02, and I just knew it. And there's something about that transition from body to spirit where I hear people talk about when people die, they need 6 months to go to a spirit hospital. And I'm just like, no, that just does not sit right with me. Or at least it's not my experience.
Absolutely not.
I think that's other people projecting their beliefs onto me and my experience. And that just doesn't sit right with me.
No, yeah. Which is all we can really speak from is our experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what their experience is to say something so bold like that.
And it's always that boldness. It's that definitive, this is how it is. I'll always try and caveat, if I don't know something. I was in the reading the other night and I said to them, I feel like this is what I'm getting. I feel like this is what they're trying to say to me. But I don't know. I'm not there. I have no idea how it works on that side. But I do feel it's really important to caveat that because we just don't know. I'm sorry. I know we're getting away from your experience. I'm really sorry.
No.
But I guess my point is that you've had these experiences around people's deaths and they're so poignant, but they're so beautiful as well. Has that helped you with your abilities? Do you think that's deepened your abilities?
Absolutely. Well, first, I must touch on thank you for sharing about your experience with your mom. I could just feel the love surrounding me and in that moment. So just thank you for sharing that. And what a beautiful thing that you felt that. As tragic as that is and how much I wish that wasn't your experience, I just want to acknowledge it. I can't move on without acknowledging that. So,
oh, bless you. Well, thank you. It's what started this whole journey from that moment onwards. Yeah,
absolutely. That's also my mother passing was also that. I forgot your question. Will you please repeat it? I'm so sorry.
Yes, absolutely. You were saying that it seemed to be the most profound experiences you have tend to be around the death of people. So your father, your grandfather. And I just wondered if that had helped, maybe the wrong word, but deepen your abilities that you have.
Yes, it has. I find that my biggest experiences, the loudest experiences that I have, are always surrounding someone who I love deeply, their passing, which then just shows me what is possible, not only for myself, but what's possible for others, and also what's possible for me to open up to for others, for spirit to work through me for others, right? And it's feeling that deep love that, with my father's passing, with smelling that, with my grandfather's passing and feeling and knowing, it comes with just this deepest feeling of love that I just cannot describe. It is the true sense of unconditional love in those moments. Another example that I have of someone passing, my husband's grandfather was very ill and we knew he was passing. We didn't know when. We visited him and he couldn't get out of his bed. And my daughter really wanted him to get up and play with him. And it was very important to her. And I was like, no, we can't. He can't talk. He truly was at the end. And I didn't want her to hurt him. And so we go home and I have a dream that felt more than a dream. And in this dream, he came to me. We were right back where we were and he was getting out of the bed. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing? Please lay back down. And my daughter's playing with him, crawling in his lap and they're reading together. And I'm like, no. And he's like, Natalie, please let me. I feel okay now. I'm okay now. Let me. I'm good. I'm like, no, she's going to hurt you. And he's like, you're not listening. I'm good now. Let me be with my granddaughter. Let me play with her. Let me have this moment with her. And then I woke up from this dream. Ooh, I have the chills from head to toe. I don't know if you can feel those chills. I have chills from head to toe.
I always get chills when you're talking that because you're always so engaging. I just love it. I absolutely love it.
Spirit just shows up so boldly with love that it just gives me the chills. So I wake up and in the door frame of my bedroom is standing my husband's grandfather. I can see him clearly standing there. I wasn't afraid. I knew he was there. And I could feel him saying goodbye. He just gave me a look and my husband was sleeping. And I just felt so safe and I felt so much love, and I just saw him. I literally saw him. If I got up, I would have been able to touch him. That's how physically strong he was standing there. And I just went back to sleep. I just closed my eyes and went to sleep because it just felt so, that's what I needed to do. I didn't need to wake up my husband and give him the news. I didn't need to get up. That was what was supposed to happen in that moment. And then we woke up to his mom calling, telling us the time that he died, which was the time I woke up. I forget what time it was, but I remember looking at the clock and it was the same time. So, which is just another example and way that spirit showed up so boldly with and through love that I saw them now physically.
Yeah.
Which was just so beautiful. And then, so every experience just deepened this understanding and has just been the slow unfoldment to what I consider the truth of spirit. Just continues to unfold, and I know it will continue to unfold. I'm never going to stop experiencing new things with spirit and what they're capable of. My entire life, I look forward to the continued unfoldment of what's possible. And that story just kind of continued to unfold. And to bring this back to the smelling, in 2021, my mother passed. And before she passed, let's go backwards in time, because that's what I like to do, is start, I never tell stories fluidly. I apologize. When I was a child, since the moment I could speak, without knowing what I was doing, I would never do this now. This is not something that's okay. I do not condone this. Anyone that's listening, do not do this. However, me not knowing any better, since the moment I could speak, I have been telling my mom how she was going to die. And I told her, not knowing I didn't know this was something bad. I didn't know. I just knew. I told her, I said, Mom, you're going to die of lung cancer. Your lungs are going to fail you. And I just would tell her over and over and over again. And then, eventually it got to a point where I can't tell her. Like I understood why this was a terrible thing to be saying to someone. And again, do not tell people, even if you think it's not something you want to live with.
But at that time, you don't have the language for what you are feeling. At that time, you are just this innocent child who just says what they feel.
Yeah, so innocently. I remember as a child and worried. I had this worry and this fear because I knew. And my mother was also a smoker. She started smoking immensely. And I was like, please stop. It tore me up, and I just knew my whole life. And so I was so encouraging of her to stop smoking because I didn't know if it was the smoking that was going to do it. I just remember before I understood smoking caused lung cancer, before I understood anything, I just knew and felt. I knew how my mom was going to die. I knew she was going to die, and I knew how. And I had to tell her because it made me so sad. Don't do that. Again, do not do that, adults that are listening. But fast forward to the year 2021, 6 months before my mom passes, before we know anything, I smell her. And I have this feeling, this is going to make me cry. And I don't want to tell her. Because at this point we know things are always happening around me. They've amped up physical stuff. Pianos are playing in my house. You name it, it's happening. Things being flipped over, stuff is always happening. And I told my husband, and it tore me up for a week. I was like, I can't stop smelling her and I can't stop feeling this. And he was like, okay. And he encouraged me to talk to her about it. And I was like, so I did. And I said, Mom, I'm really worried, and I don't want you to be worried, but I needed my mom's love in that moment as a child. Little girl me came out. Sorry.
No.
So I told her, I said, Mom, I'm smelling you. And it's along with that same feeling that I felt with Dad. And I'm just really worried about you. Can you go to the doctor? And so then stuff started happening, and, they found a spot on her tongue. She started going to the doctor, and it just really unfolded really quickly. And it ended up being her lungs that took her. That really was such a moment when she passed. I was in the room with her, and I remember I was with her when she passed, staring into her eyes. She was staring into my eyes and she couldn't breathe. And I was just staring into her eyes, telling her I was the last thing she saw. Whether or not that she wanted that to be the case, it was. She was staring at me. And I just kept telling her that it was okay. It was okay, and everything was going to be okay. And she stared at me as she took her last breath, and she passed. And something that was so beautiful in that moment is I could feel the power of her love, and I felt her still in the room. It just so happened to be my birthday. She held on for my birthday. At midnight, she pointed to the clock, and I was just like, why is she pointing? What is she doing? And then my husband was like, oh my goodness, Nat, it's your birthday. And then my mom just a few minutes later let go and passed. And that was really a beautiful gift she gave me as well. But in that moment, in that time, I crawled into her lap. My husband's in the room. And what's so cool about this is my husband, who is not interested in mediumship. He's interested in love, spirit, all of that. But he's not interested in having communications himself necessarily.
Yeah.
The moment I crawled out of my mom's lap, right before I did, he said, I just felt her leave. And I said, I did too. And I knew it was time to go because there was just a moment where she was like, filled that room with so much love. And even though her physical body was gone for quite some time, there was just this moment when we knew, oh, she filled us with all of the love and it's okay to leave now. Mm-hmm. I mean, our loved ones are always around us. So for her to have left, well, that's not accurate. However, that moment of needing her to fill the space so boldly and impact like so densely, that moment no longer needed to be there, and she lessened it, and we knew we could leave.
Yeah.
So all of that, I feel like I just really rambled and went on a side path there, and I apologize, but it all just unfolds and continues to get bigger, and spirit continues to work through me and shine through my life in a way where others can experience the love. Because I have shown, my husband, I have shown, and he now experiences this beautiful love in those moments. And I just, there's something about others experiencing this and having their hearts and minds open to it, because anyone can feel these things. Anyone can experience these things. I just like to share them to let people know that they're not alone ever. And, it's such a beautiful, wonderful thing. As sad as it can be at times, there's so much beauty and so much love that I feel honored to experience every moment that I do.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Nat. I'm not even going to try to analyze it or say anything more, because what you said there was absolutely beautiful and perfect. I have one more question, though. One more question before we bring this beautiful recording session to a close. You are a mum of 2 children. You have a life, you have a family, and everything that goes with that, I'm sure. How have you come to live with and understand your abilities? I think you sort of answered this question already, but I'm confident for you, we get it. For you, this has been completely normal from day one. This has been almost your cornerstone. This is the essence of Nat. But how about as a parent? As a parent, how do you use your abilities or bring it in to help you with your parenting?
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things to bring into my parenting and then see grow through my children. Both of my children have had experiences with spirit as well. I mean, of course they will. Everyone does in my home. You come into my home as a stranger, you leave a friend, a curious friend, because spiritual stuff always happens all the time. But with my children, both of them have had experiences. And what I have loved is that because I was raised with this fear instilled from my father, as things happen with my children, I instill curiosity. I instill play. I instill love and wonder, and seeing that unfold in them and the experiences they have is just like, it fills me with this like bubbly sparkle. My oldest has seen spirit since I can remember, and she moves about the world as this bright little loving light. Do you want to hear experiences that they've had, or?
Yeah, I mean, only if you feel happy to share. I really don't want to feel like I'm sort of rinsing your family for all your stories. Only if you want to.
No, I don't want to take all your time, is what I'm thinking.
No, not at all. You carry on, please carry on.
Great, and you can just cut whatever, Anywho, so just that's not cutting it. So my oldest, my husband and I started a business when she was like 3 years old. We were launching this business, and there were hundreds of people at this event with these vaulted ceilings. And this is shortly after my husband's grandfather passed. So my daughter, we see her, we're mingling with everyone, and we see her standing on the top of these stairs in this very big open room, just staring up at the rafters, waving. And so my husband and I walk up to her and sit down, and we're like, hey, what are you waving to and talking? Like, what's going on? And she's like, Grandpa's here. And my husband's like, just cracked, he's like, trying to hold back his tears because it's such a proud moment for him. His grandfather was so proud of him that he showed up, and he was just there and needed his presence to be known. And with my daughter being so open, he was speaking through her to him. And my husband knew without asking, without needing to say anything else, we know why Grandpa is showing up and why our oldest could see him and why he was saying hi to her. And she's had experiences like that her whole life. And what's really, really cool about her is she sees a lot. She never met my father. I was pregnant with my oldest when he passed, and she sees him all the time. Along with my husband's grandfather. She says that they're always outside. She'll look out her window and she'll see them in our yard. And it just brings her all this comfort. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing. So one thing that I have had to work with her, because she's now a preteen and still has experiences. Often now they happen at nighttime, and she... a cat will come and lay with her often. She'll feel a cat lay in her bed, think it's ours, and realize, oh no, my door is closed. And she'll go to pet the cat, and there's no cat there, but she can feel it kneading and feel it in the bed with her. And also loved ones will visit her. They'll come up to her while she's sleeping and wake her up, and they'll touch her. And she doesn't like that. For her, she has asked, she's like, Mom, I know who it is, and I know it's fine and good, but when I sleep and I don't expect it, it just kind of scares me. And so I've taught her how to have boundaries. I'm like, listen, no one wants to scare you. There's nothing scary, but if this is startling, which then scares you, let's set some parameters. Let's set some boundaries. So I've taught her, and they listen to her. She has asked them just in her room out loud, hey, this makes me scared. I don't like you waking me up. Can you please not do that anymore? Keep showing up, just not that way. And so they've stopped showing up to her in that way, which is, I think, just such a beautiful thing.
Amazing. What a wonderful guy your husband sounds. I want to give him a massive big hug, which is absolutely fantastic. And your parenting too. I just love it. If more people could raise their kid to be this loving ball of light, I love that. For you and your family, I love it. I think that's really beautiful. Before we started this recording, that you shared with me some videos, and I put them together in the form of a reel, and you've given me your permission to share these on my Instagram. So listeners, listen up. If you're interested in seeing these videos that Nat has captured of stuff going on in her house, intelligent responses to phenomena rather, do go onto my Instagram and have a look for those reels. Very quickly, Nat, would you mind just explaining to the listeners what these videos are and how did they come about?
As a developing medium myself, I love to play. Like, play is what I'm all about. Let's just see what can happen. Why Eileen Davies, I have heard, says, don't limit the limitless. And I don't want to limit anything. Let's just play. So first, our electricity has been rewired and redone. There's no issues with our electricity in our old home. There is a certain lamp in my living room that's brand new, fine. We plug it in, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it will flicker when I feel a shift in the room, when I feel communication needs to be had. They will speak through this light in my living room. However, what you will be sharing is not my living room light. It's completely different. It is my bathroom light. And so my loved ones like to communicate through light. Typically it's this lamp. However, this time it's my bathroom. I'm sitting in the living room, and they never have done this until this moment of the video that you have. I'm sitting in my living room with my husband, and all of a sudden it's like a strobe light, just on, off, on, off, on, off. And my husband's like, Natalie, who's here now? You know, this is new. I don't know. I'm going to go find out. So I go into the bathroom and they start replying. I like to establish communication where let's make sure this isn't a faulty flickering light. You know, let's turn it on for a yes and turn it off for a no. If I ask you to turn it on, will you turn it on? If I ask you to turn it off, can you turn it off? And let's start to develop a baseline to make sure that this isn't something mundane. So I established that in the bathroom. And then I just ask questions. And as I ask the questions, it's so cool because I can feel them in the room with me. I feel the shift. I feel them. And I have this knowing too, right? That comes in. And it's like I know when the light's going to turn off and I know what the reply is going to be. And they're communicating through this light blinking on and off. And it just validates the experience that I'm having through my body. Yeah. So I just think it's so cool. We don't need a light. We don't need spirit lights, balls, REM pods. We don't need that. But I think it's really cool to give another opportunity for spirit to speak to us and also validate what we're feeling. Yeah, so my mom showed up in the bathroom with me, and that was so cool. And like the light will start to flicker in a way, and I can feel it's her laughter. I feel it's her excitement. Like I feel it. It turns on and off, and it sounds like a thank you from her. And so I say, you're welcome back, because I just know that was it was such a cool experience.
I'm looking forward to sharing these with listeners. I really can't wait to put them out there. So any listener who's curious, not only to see what Nat's bathroom looks like.
Oh, it's dusty. It's dusty. It's terrible.
You and mine both. You and mine both. No, but people are going to love this. Honestly, I know people are going to love this because when I have my paranormal investigation episode come out in last October, people loved it. So if you're into that, then do go over to my Instagram, onto the Reels, and check out the video that Nat has sent me, or the videos that Nat has sent me. Nat, thank you so much for today. It's been absolutely gorgeous. For lack of better words, gorgeous, wonderful. It's just fantastic. Thank you so much. Where can the listeners find you? You said you're a developing medium. Yes. Are your books open for readings?
Yes. I would just love the opportunity to meet with anyone who wants to help me continue my development. I love giving spirit the opportunity to connect with you, the listener. Yes, I have a website. My website is nidonat with a G, like the bug.com. And you can also find me on TikTok. Nido.nat is my name on TikTok.
Brilliant. I will put all of that information into the show notes. So if you're listening and you didn't quite catch that, go into the show notes of whatever podcast provider you are listening to this on, and it will all be there for you. all that is left for me to say is, Nat, thank you so much. This has been really, really beautiful. Thank you so, so much.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Matt. I so appreciate you giving Spirit the light and allowing me to be one of the voices. Just thank you. I appreciate you.
It has been my absolute pleasure. Thank you. The marvellous Nat Lockett, and I implore you, if anyone is interested in having a reading with Nat, you can find her all the channels that she mentioned at the end of her interview there. If you didn't quite catch it all, they are in the show notes. So whatever podcast provider you are listening to this on, have a look at the notes on this episode and you will find Nat's details there. Again, you will also find on my Instagram page, on the Reels section, the.psychic.explorer, you will see the video that Nat has sent me of her communicating with the lights and the REM pod. You will also see an additional bonus video of a conversation that Nat and I had separately about an experience that her husband had. So please make sure that you go online and you check that out. Just one more thing before I love you and leave you, lovely people. This episode is focused quite heavily on grief. So I just wanted to give some support details in case you are in that place where you need support or help. If you're in the UK, you can go to cruse.org.uk. That's cruse.org.uk. Their telephone number is 0808 808 1677. I know I also have a number of American listeners, so I wanted to give some stuff for you guys too, but I couldn't find one particular line. I think that might have changed due to current administration, maybe got rid of it. But if you are struggling, please Google bereavement support in the USA. There are plenty of options available. It just tends to be quite specific on who you have lost and what the situation and circumstance is. Right, that is enough for me. Enjoy the rest of your day, you lovely, lovely listener, and I will see you on the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.